Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
The following is independently produced programming. The views and opinions expressed are those of the producers and do not reflect the views and opinions of Falls Area Community Television, our staff, or board of directors.
Secrets in the shadows, lost and found. Truth in every echo, loud and clear. Keep on with the long road, no more fear. In the halls of power, whispers grow. Every secret got beneath the undertone. Honor stories hidden in the dust. On this long road, in the truth we trust.
Hello, my name is Chris Roberts. I'm the host for The Long Road. Today is going to be a tough show for me because growing up, you always thought certain people would have the conviction, the integrity, the character to say what's right or to stand up. Growing up, one of the things I read, the books that was John F. Kennedy's profile in courage. People standing up, willing to risk it all, to do what they believe were the right things, and the thing that their judgment had a positive outcome on the current and future the United States. Yes, we all know that, hey, when people in debt, they don't want to lose their job, have a lot of bills, their courage kind of goes down and they try to blend in so they're not noticed. Or Mr. Smith goes to Washington. When I growing up, Jimmy Stewart in that movie, who stood up to the corruption in the graft, and a lot of people don't know that Jimmy Stewart was a brigadier general in the reserves. It was the reserves of the National Guard. Jimmy Stewart flew 25 combat missions, bombing missions over Europe. Or guys like Ted Williams served as a Marine Corps fighter pilot in World War II and in Korea. Yogi Berra served in World War II. We could name a lot of individuals that served their country and stood up. But now, and I've got different articles we got from a religious college in Dublin, Ireland, and what they look at the United States and what we're going through. We have Prospect Magazine talking about the United States. We have one from Atlantic Magazine. And some of them go, since Trump came to power, cowardice has become contagious. America is suffering from an epidemic of mass cowardice. The cowardice of leaders threaten democracy. And this one from Atlanta Magazine, September 25th, it goes lower than cowards. Kind of like when you go in and you look at a lot of people, you calling them cowards. It says that's too high of a story recognition to give them. This one with Prospect Magazine, it goes from text bros to the leaders of Ivy League universities, the great grovel to Donald Trump is well underway. What America needs now more than ever is for people to show courage. And here's a list on this picture. I know you can't see it, but it's a list on the inauguration. People with the billionaire list. A great example of someone with with the lack of courage was the Secretary of War. The Secretary of War states that he wants the military to go back to what it was in 1990. Fit, trim, all this kind of stuff. Well, let's go back to the 1990. So that's 35 years ago. What were you doing, Mrs. Secretary, in 1990 when a lot of people were over in the Gulf? I was over in the Gulf. Okay. You had guys like General Colin Powell, General Schwarzkopf, General Gray. You had a lot of these great generals who had served in Vietnam, who knew the difference. You can be courageous on the battlefield, but you can show a lot of cowardness over here. Important things. And so, when the Secretary of War, as he calls it, and the President of the United States went to Quantico Tuesday to meet with hundreds and hundreds of generals that were pulled in from all around the world, the generals, the senior enlisted, so they can sit in that room at the Marine University in Quantico and listen to what they're told. We're told. Donald Trump, he walked up to the stage. He was quite disturbed. He had stated that he had never walked in any room without getting applause. That anybody who wanted to clap for him could clap for him. Anybody who didn't like what he was saying could get up and leave, but he was going to fire them. Okay? What you saw from the military leadership was civil disobedience. They all knew how important applause is to the president. Even the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, a MAGA guy that President Trump got rid of the black guy who was in there. He got rid of all the black people and the women that were up in senior leadership. And he brought this guy back, a major general, and promoted him up over a lot of qualified guys and women and made him the chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. Even he didn't stand up and clap. But it was amazing. They went and talked about, we got rid of these fat generals. Well, the commander-in-chief is kind of fat. And they're going, like I said, he wanted to get it back to 1990. But you can't get it back to 1990. Just like MAGA, Make America Great Again. You can't tell me what America Great means. You can't tell me what point, what time, what year, what decade America was at the greatest, and that decade that you want to go back to that decade. Hey, if America's greatest decade was 1880, you want us to leave the 21st century and go back to the 19th century when America was great. Okay? Well, you want to go back and say, hey, we want to make the military back the way it was in 1990. You can never return to 1990, and the reason the military can't return to 90 because a lot of the generals in 1990 refused to kiss butt. A lot of the generals we have right now, they're bowing down to the president. Their figuring is if we go along with the president, I will be able to get promoted. And so, because basically 3 and 4 star generals, they're picked by the president and secretary of defense. So, we get a lot of cowards in the military. We got lieutenant colonels and colonels who want to make generals who sacrifice their people, their troops, just so they can move ahead. So the Secretary of War, he comes in, he's admitted he's a white Christian nationalist. He admits that he don't like women in military. Then he goes, oh no, I don't like them in combat. And so he's doing things. So he comes out and says, you know what? You know, if women want to be in combat units, they got to meet the same standards as men. Well, what does that mean? Okay, when I went to OCS, my standard was 3 miles in 18 minutes or faster to get 100 points, 20 pull-ups or more to get 100 points, 80 sit-ups in 2 minutes to get the 100 points. Okay? Back then, I'm 6'1", 172. I ran cross-country. I ran 15-minute miles. And I've run a marathon in 2 hours and 39 minutes. You know, 10K in about 32. So you know what? That wasn't bad for me. So I ended up being able to do it. So now, any woman who wants to be in, like say, combat engineers or tanks or things like that, or being a pilot, are going to have to meet the standards. Okay? But if I want to be a pilot, or if I want to be in force recon, I'm meeting the best standard. I could be 275 to 300 PFT, max PFT. Okay, the chances of women running 3 miles in 18 minutes or faster, there are some women who can do it. Okay, but a lot of male Marines can't do it. Doing 20 pull-ups. Women do not have the upper body, or most of them do not have the upper body strength of men. And the Marine Corps, the reason the Marine Corps does the pull-up, because that's the only exercise you have to lift your complete weight. You know, push-ups you can hide and stuff, pull-ups you have to. So, this isn't about making women more effective in combat roles, it's a way of saying, sorry women, you're not going to get to play. And so women, you also then have to meet the male standard. And so very few of us will get the high numbers that you need for promotion, say for example in the Marine Corps. Okay, and he says, okay, any of you black guys, and there's some white guys, you know, you have pseudofolliculitis where your hair curls into your skin and it gets affected. No one is going to have beards or anything like that, so you'll be going out. Another way to get rid of black soldiers. Then he goes, don't like these weight standards. Oh, you black women and you black Hispanics women, you Hispanic women, like your Mexican women and stuff like that, not all, but since you have a bigger, a lot of them have bigger backsides genetically, he's going to say, sorry, you can't come in because you're not meeting the height and weight standards. Well, we'll forget about measuring. Okay. But you go in and say, hey, good. Well, you can go online and you can see article after article showing how the Army can't get a falling short. And one of the reasons they're falling short on recruiting people is they can't get white kids to join. It seems a lot of MAGA people are like what we call the old chicken hawks. They love for America to go to war as long if they didn't have to go or their children or grandchildren have to go. They want other people to go. Kind of like Congress. There's an awful lot of chicken hawks in Congress who've been in Congress over the last 20, 25 years and had no problem funding money for young American men and women to go fight these wars. But they're not going to let their son go. They're not going to go. They're not going to be like General Kelly, Trump's chief of staff the first time is, oh, General Kelly, you fought in wars. Oh, General Kelly, your son followed you in the Marine Corps, but he got killed. Well, nope. He knew what was right, what was wrong, and he had the courage to stand up to Trump and say, no, we're not doing this. General Mattis, no, we're not doing this. And so, Milley, as the Joint Chief of Staff, which I didn't, Chairman Joint, which I didn't like very much, when Donald Trump says, shoot BLM people, he says, no, we're not using American soldiers to shoot protesters. Okay? So, when our guy, Secretary of whatever he wants to call himself, goes with these really, there was no beating around, open things of saying, hey, I want to get rid of kids of color. I want to get rid of women. I want to go back to 1990. Well, if you can't get white kids to join in the Army is 53.6% white. 46% of the people in the Army are not white. 20% black, 17% Hispanic, 9% Asian Pacific. Okay, so the Secretary of War gives out these vibes, and people of color decide not to join the Army. I think the Army is in a little bit of trouble. The Army has over 900, almost 100,000 members of the Army are black. And we're just going. And in the military right now, 18% of the people wearing active duty uniform are women. Almost 1 out of every 5 people in the military is a woman. Okay. When you look at them, the Army, yeah. Where can you do? So, who is going to be the general that's going to be willing to risk it all and tell the secretary, sir, you know what? We need people of color. We need black youth, men and women, to join the military. We need women to join the military. We need Hispanics to join the military. You know how many non-American citizens living in the United States that join the military in hoping to get a green card and get citizenship? Look at this. All these people, which makes up the military, but they don't want diversity. They don't want equity. Screw the word inclusion. They don't want diversity and they don't want equity. You do not want people of color and women to join the military. And you, if they do join, you do not want to give them the opportunity to excel. Not only to maximize their potential, reach their potential, but improve on their potential. But how many generals are going to stand up and say, sir, every American should have the right to serve. If they're qualified, they should have the right to serve. If a man, a 17 to 21-year-old in the Marine Corps, is giving 28 minutes to run 3 miles, should he give a better opportunity than a 17 to 20-year-old woman or young lady that runs a 23-minute 3 mile? Because the really slow poke, about a half a mile behind, is a male, and she's a female. But no, I don't think a lot are going to sign up. None of them seem to be doing much. Okay, it's really against international law to be blowing up craft but not knowing who's on it. If it's not a warship, there's different things of where you're sending out people. National Guard here, National Guard there. When the Mr. Server, Adam Server, who wrote in the Atlantic magazine, Lower Than Cowards, you know, like he says, ABC is owned by Disney. Okay. You know how much wealth and power Disney has? It is worth more than a lot of the gross national products of a lot of nations in the world. But why did they capitulate so quickly with the Jimmy Kimmel thing? Okay? And of course, Donald Trump says he's going to sue ABC for bringing Kimmel back. Kimmel, when he came back, he gave a warning. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their jobs because he can't take a joke. But he's not stopping, and it is not comedy. Okay, like for example, I don't like Kimmel. Get rid of him. Okay? But Kimmel is a multi-millionaire. He's got plenty of money. He can go do other things. What about all the people that work for the Kimmel Show? They're all out of jobs. Nope, they can't make comp payments. They can't pay their mortgage. Don't they count? But Disney said, no big deal. Hey, we're just going to keep the president happy. He goes, because so many well-situated people, those with sources, resources, the platform and the power to stand up to the president, have surrendered, withdrawn, or become Trump psychopaths themselves. One by one, American leaders supposedly committed to the principle of free speech, due process, democracy, and equality have abandoned those ideas when menaced by the Trump administration. You know, Trump is going to be gone in about 3 years, 3 months. Okay? You know, if we have a bad recession, what these big CEOs and other ones says, you know what, we're going to make some changes, we're going to ride it out. And the CEOs who take the initiative, show courage, and take risk, their companies are usually much stronger when the recession is over. CBS, 60 Minutes. 3.5 hours worth of tape, and Mr. Trump says it was edited. Hell yes, it was edited. It's always edited. And why did 60 Minutes capitulate? Why did 16 Minutes, you know, hey, here, Mr. Trump, we're going to donate money to your library. Why did they capitulate when they had the resources? They were right. They were going to win. Oh, Mr. Trump goes and says, people, oh, you want this lady, you want to sell this company to another company so you can line your pockets. Well, if you don't take care of me, this deal isn't going. Okay, So you go along, you sacrifice your integrity, you become a coward, you do it all for money so you can take the money and run. But you know what? History, even if it remembers you, is not going to be very kind to you. And also, it doesn't mean Donald Trump isn't going to come back at the second bite, third bite of your butt. Same way with the people that actually finally bought that. These people, ABC, CNBC, CNN, they're going, we'll give them this, give them that. The lawyers, big, gigantic law firms, yep, we'll do this, bingo. And I'm going over and over and over the people that capitulate. Facebook, Meta, just did the same thing. Facebook, Amazon, Google, trillion-dollar companies. Trillion-dollar companies. Their major owners are multi-billionaires. Some of the richest people in the world. Donald Trump thinks he's really rich, but Donald Trump can't make the top 400 wealthiest people in the world. I don't even think he's in the top 400 wealthiest in the United States. But why is people capitulating to him? Defending democracy requires a collective refusal to acquiesce to lawless behavior from many different sectors of society. All of these powerful people trying to save their own skin have effectively multiplied Trump's attacks on constitutional government by enhancing a false sense of inevitability and invincibility. Now just think, hey, I'm only got $100 billion, but I'm going to give up, you know what? I'll give Trump $15 million for his library, or I know I'm at Apple, I'll give Trump this nice little statue. What are they showing to the rest of Americans? I can tell you what it's showing is that these big business guys, they had no problem by extracting an awful lot of money from us, and they just used us for our money. But they had in no way in the world were they going to protect us. They were going to use the power and wealth that we gave them to protect us, to protect our democracy. What about the newspapers? The Washington Post, the LA Times. They got rid of all the people that had backbones, had journalistic integrity, and what about when the Secretary of War says, I need you to sign this paper saying that you can only report on what we authorize you to report on. So really, we're just going to make you a copy boy. We'll write up the press release and give it to you, and you go out and report it. Yes, some are complaining, but not too many. What about when AP was thrown out of the press room, thrown off Presidential One? Nope. They put some signs up for one day and they go, nope, we're up. AP who? And as he put right here, like when Brendan Carr, the head of the Federal Communications Commission, goes to ABC and Disney, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Get rid of him. And Disney did not show Mr. Carr the door. They didn't show Mr. Carr the finger. And there's a really powerful one that I want to quote the writer. As it turns out, you cannot sell your soul to Trump and keep your spine. They're a package deal. So, if you're going to sell your soul to Mr. Trump, he's going to rip your spine out. And what are you? You're just a limp bag with a lot of money. No respect, but a limp bag with a lot of money. If Trump has been right about anything, it is that there is a deep rot in the upper echelons of American society, among people who have been put in positions of power and leadership. Trump understands that many of these people are weak, that their public commitment to civil principles can crumble under sustained pressure. In many cases, those folding have ample resources to resist Trump's shakedown, but haven't been brave enough to do so. There, in a word, chicken poop. He uses the other four-letter word. Okay. If you study psychology and study philosophy, and you study psychology, sociology, philosophy, okay, what Trump is doing to these people is who he is. It's who he is. He has to be in a position where he thinks he's in control. And what happens? The people that we thought that were going to defend us are shriveling up like a flower in a drought in the hot sun, just shriveling up, bending over. Losing their spine. He goes, I want to distinguish between chicken poop and cowardice. Fear is part of human existence. Bravery is overcoming of fear, not its absence of fear. It's just like a soldier. I fear nothing. Well, you don't want that soldier in your unit because he's dangerous. You want people who fear. You want people who are afraid, who are scared, but they overcome it to do their job. Those are the brave. You know, America, home of the brave. But our upper elite people are living in the home of the brave, but they're not the brave. Acts of cowardice can be provoked by genuine danger. Think of a deserting soldier freeing the pearls of the piers of a battlefield. Yeah, you're a coward. You're scared. You could get killed. But you don't have the bravery or the courage. You don't have the courage to overcome your fears and be brave. So, bravery, cowardice. Bravery, cowardice. They're both scared. But this one over here has the ability to overcome the fear. They may crap their pants, they may wet their pants, but they find a way to overcome. They may break down in tears after the battle's over with, but they find a way to overcome. These guys, they can't overcome. They may break down into a shriveling ball of tears that they're scared so much. But they're easily to define, to acknowledge. Okay? Chicken poop is when you capitulate to avoid the mere possibility of discomfort, let alone something that resembles real risk. So yes, what we're saying, the author is saying is Amazon, ABC, Disney, Fox, even Fox now, CNN, they're all chicken poop. They're all capitulating because they're afraid they may be inconvenienced. They're not even talking about risk. They're not even talking about loss. They're talking about the possibility of discomfort. Not the possibility of getting killed, not the possibility of getting a leg or an arm blown off. No, the possibility of discomfort. They don't even know if it's going to be real. But they're so worried about the possibility, they give it up. Big companies and their CEOs have cowered before Trumpism's intimidations, trying to ease his temper by settling frivolous lawsuits over bias or slanting. Media companies have settled First Amendment cases they are likely to win in order to curry favor or protect their parents' companies' commercial interests. Hey, Trump comes in, he says, no more DEI, no more black stuff. Oh, Target says, okay, Target does away with DEI, and it does away with the Black Month where the small black businesses get to sell in Targets. You know what? That hasn't worked very well for Target. Target hasn't been doing very good. It seems a lot of people didn't like the fact that Target capitulated to Mr. Trump. Okay? So, newspaper owners have compromised the integrity of their publication. Elite institutions, Harvard, Yale, Penn, some of them have gone and fired their presidents because Mr. Trump didn't like them. Or they say, hey, no DEI, none of this stuff. We want this. Oh, if you don't do it, I'm going to take millions and millions and millions away from you. Billions for Harvard. Columbia had to pay a big amount so it can get its money back. Then it goes and says, Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, said to, oh, Mr. President, okay, here's all the names of the students and faculty members that were protesting against Gaza, the children dying in Gaza, against Israel and the Gaza situation. Turn them all over. Why'd they turn it over? Because they were worrying that the president was going to be coming after them. I think there's something like 190 people. Yep. No moral courage. all about the money. The the child Kirk thing. For years, the leaders of the Republican Party, with all tough guy Bravo, have shrunk from standing up to Trump when it matters. But even the opposition party has been less confrontation this time around. Yeah, the Democrats, they're not a party. They're a bunch of wusses trying to protect their seats. Not trying to protect Americans, but trying to protect their seats. This week, the House passed a congressional resolution honoring Kirk in part for respect for his fellow Americans. The Black Congressional Caucus rightfully condemned his murderer, but also the opposition of the resolution, in because of Kirk's view that the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which out Jim Crow, was a mistake, and that it became an anti-white weapon. Kurt also called for most recent Democratic president to be executed, which doesn't seem very respectful in all honesty. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries voted for the resolution anyway, saying, I took it as a 2-page resolution that doesn't even have the force of law. Oh, I think it goes right back here. When you are chicken poop, you capitulate to avoid the mere possibility of discomfort. So the Democratic House leader capitulated. A black guy went and voted for a resolution saying that for a guy who said the civil rights law of 1964 was wrong, and it's like, Minority Leader, do you understand if that thing had not passed, most likely you wouldn't be in Congress? Most likely you would not have been able to go to a lot of good schools? Okay, but do we have brave people in the United States? Yes, we do. But it's the average American. Okay, some of the Americans that stand up and video what ICE is doing and how some of ICE's raids go. Like in Chicago last night, where ICE agents repelled from Black Hawk helicopters down in about 300 agents, FBI, the border, the whole Homeland Security. There was people all filming it, keeping track of everything, knowing they could risk getting arrested for obstruction of justice. Know that you look brown or Latino to me, we'll throw you in jail, and maybe you take a day or two to prove that you're an American citizen. American people are standing up. The sheer number of American elite willing to acquiesce to the destruction of the democratic institutions is demoralizing. But it's worth noting that many ordinary people seem to be made of sterner stuff. ICE detainees, for example, have continued to speak publicly about administrative abuses. These are people who stand to lose their home, their freedom, their family, and they are showing more courage than people that have summer homes and trust funds. Protesters continue to show up in the streets, risk being brutalized by armed agents of the state. In Washington, D.C., citizens called to serve on grand juries have refused to indict people accused of political crimes. The people, it turns out, are far more courageous than their leaders. Think of that. Look at the local level. You can go and say, oh, why did we have some of our leaders vote to move, to take money from a gambling organization, and then the planning board went right through it, unanimously approved the variances so they can make the changes so they can move. And the city saying, well, they're donating money. No. They're not donating money. It's the cost of doing business. It is called, they call it donations. But the city is going to get maybe $20,000. Okay, that $20,000, those donations don't come, they come out of our winnings. Those winnings are gamblers' losses. It's all programmed in. And instead, wait a minute, the city will get it'll take, you save our tax rate like 0.001 cent. And, on the other side, the casino only has to do so many a year. And so, instead of the city collecting that $28,000, maybe there's another nonprofit charity in this neighborhood that could use the money, where $20,000 could be a big deal. But no. From Tech, I already said that one. It goes, for one, it goes, how a parade of the wealthiest and most elite institution in American life have capitulated to a series of unprecedented demands from Donald Trump and his brutish team of retribution seekers. Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos were the first to take the knee before Trump even cleared his throat. Or maybe the bosses at ABC, who rather than tell the president-elect where to shove his lawsuit, agreed to pay him $15 million to defend the defamation claim. You're a politician, it's almost impossible to be there to happen. Then it comes, there are crybabies running the great universities, specifically Columbia, whose interim president hoisted a white flag above the hollow halls of learning. Catherine Armstrong, promptly stepped down to be replaced by an active president. Claire Shipman, who has already been warned that it's only a matter of weeks before she was forced out. But none of this rivals the flabby capitulation of some of the most affluent law firms in America, who have stumbled out of their well-appointed offices with their hands in the air. Trump began almost certainly illegally threatening one law firm in retaliation for some slight, real or imagined. Within a week, the firm surrendered, promising to devote $40 million in legal services to causes close to Trump, and they vowed to abandon any DEI. The company, the Paul White law firm, had prided itself on being the front lines for the fight for civil rights, is not a poor company. Last year was the boom. Grew by 30, had a profit, revenues of 2.63, and the average pay for his partners was $7.5 million, and they still folded. So here's a company that prided itself on working on civil rights issues. They folded. $40 million. Okay, did away with DEI. So you know what? They're not going to be defending any discrimination suits. A fourth firm, Milbank, struck a deal this week to commit $100 million of free legal advices to Trump's cause and also ditch diversity-based hiring. Meanwhile, all the richest law firms in America so far are looking the other way. Perkins Coie said, nope, I'm fighting back. Some companies like Coca-Cola says, nope, we're not doing it. Larry Summer, who was also Secretary of Treasury and was former president of Harvard, says he's trying to beat American elite universities in submission. Each act of capitulation makes the next one more likely. Each act reverberates. He said, institutions such as Harvard, the administration's most recent target, has vast financial resources, great prestige, and a broad network of influential alumni. If they do not or cannot resist the arbitrary application of government power, who can? Without active resistance, who protects the rule of law and the government itself? So if you want to manipulate your own version of the truth, then of course you target the fake media, the lawyers, the judges, and science itself. Hello, RFK. Okay, look at it. Go on Google. Go over. There's so many different articles. Read for yourself. Find out where we are and ask yourself, why are our leaders such cowards?